Namaste to all of you. A very warm welcome to this evening's talk. To start, let me introduce Samalochana. Samalochana is an intellectual forum based out of Andhra Pradesh. So we have quite a few units, right from Vijayanagaram to Nellore. We have quite a few units which are working to bring intellectuals to the nationalistic thought process and also to give content to nationalists. There are lots of nationalists, but they may not know the subject. For instance, that is what we are attempting to do today. This Cockroach Janata Party has taken the internet and media space by storm, but people who are true nationalists, they have not understood the depth or seriousness of this problem. So we thought we will present what this whole thing is, so that a true nationalist is empowered to go and fight it in the public, maybe in the media space or in his own spaces, duly empowered. So our job is to do these, to bring more nationalists to the nationalistic thought process, to bring intellectuals to the nationalistic thought process, and to give intellect to the nationalists. These are the two things that mostly we do. So I think with that brief introduction, let me proceed with the topic of the day. As you all would have some awareness of this particular party or so-called party, let me start off giving you the basics of what this is all about. First, this is just a media handle and not a political party. We need to have that clarity first. Second, this is started by a gentleman named Abhijit Tipke. This came into existence on 16th May 2026. Now, what happened on 16th May 2026? Just one day before that, Chief Justice of India, in an open court, while hearing a petition on something related to advocates, he made a comment which went viral. And that comment read something like this. I'm quoting: "There are youngsters like cockroaches who don't get any employment and or have any place in profession. Some of these become media, social media, RTI, and other activists and start attacking others." Unquote. So this is what he had said in the open court. So based on this statement, on 16th May, that means the next day of this particular statement, Abhijit Dipke started this handle called Cockroach Janata Party, because CJI, Chief Justice of India, equated unemployed youth with cockroaches. So he started, utilizing this. He started unleashing a lot of memes and all that stuff. Now, the punchline for this particular movement media handle is "voice of the lazy and unemployed." I will come to its analysis later, but first let us understand who they are and then we'll get into the analysis. So basically, he's saying this is meant for people who are lazy and who are unemployed. Now, you see, within 78 hours of launching this particular handle, they get 3 million followers. That means we're talking about 30 million followers. Sorry, 30 lakh followers in just 78 hours. In less than 5 days, it overtakes BJP's followers number. It crosses 10 million. And it long overtook even Aam Aadmi Party. I'll come to why Aam Aadmi Party. Aam Aadmi Parties, which existed for more than 15 years, Aam Aadmi Party's handle followership, this party exceeded in less than 5 days. And it went on to record 20 million followers. So this is the background. Now, on the 17th, CJI, Chief Justice of India, after this went viral and all whatever happened, he gave a clarification saying that his statements were meant only to people who have fake degrees, fake law degrees, and who come and do activism in courts. It was not meant for the unemployed youth of the country. He gave a clarification, but sadly that was too late. And I think he should have been more circumspect when he made such statements. And the statement, did not go well. We've seen this repeatedly, that a lot of statements are made in open courts by justices, and they are above scrutiny. So it's only in the social media that they are hauled up. But the funniest part is, instead of targeting the Chief Justice of India or the judicial system or the processes of justice in our country, this entire movement started targeting BJP. They did not say BJP, but they started targeting one single party in this country called BJP. Now, this gentleman, Abhijit Dipke, now let's get into what is his background. Abhijit Dipke, he had his entire career only with Aam Aadmi Party. At 22 years, he joined the Aam Aadmi Party. And recently, he went to Boston to get some additional qualifications. So, till then, he was working for Aam Aadmi Party. He was in their media cell, and under Manish Sisodia, he was directly helping him in terms of communication, in terms of media management, and things like that. So, under Manish Sisodia, we know what has happened to Delhi schools. The entire ecosystem collapsed. Out of 1,000 and odd schools, more than 800 schools did not even have proper principals or proper management team. And the entire ecosystem, what they projected was completely different than what happened in reality. So this gentleman, Abhijit Dipke, was minting money and trying to do whatever social media management. This is his background. Now, the ideology of this particular party, as they have themselves quoted, it says they are working for the youth. They are focused on youth. Very good. We all welcome it. And then they said they are secular, socialist, democratic. So let's understand these three terms. They say they are secular, they say they are socialist, and but then they are democratic. Now let's go back to the founders, what their attitude was in the previous incidents that happened in our country. It is the same team which more or less expected some kind of a Gaza kind of a uprising, kind of an intifada in Kashmir when Article 370 was amended. That shows their secular credentials. Now, when we look at other aspects of their manifesto, we'll understand how democratic they are or how socialist they are. Right? So the ideology of this party is this is meant for lazy people, for chronically online people, and who have the ability to rant professionally. This is a qualification of anybody who wants to join this party. So you can understand people who are serious, who are productive, who want to contribute, who want to have a normal life. They are not the ones who are invited in this party. People have to be lazy. They have to be chronically online, do nothing else in life, be online all the time. At least 11 to 12 hours in a day, they should be online. And their ability to rant professionally. Pick up something and keep on ranting, and that too in a very professional way. These are the ones that they needed. And who were called cockroaches by CJI. So this is how their ideology goes about. Now let's look at their manifesto. Their manifesto has 5 major points. The first point is they said, no Chief Justice shall be given Rajya Sabha seat post-retirement. So there's nothing much we can say about it. That's fine. Because it was a Chief Justice of India statement based on which the entire movement started. So let's give it to them that this is something which I think every party should probably focus on. We do not want, of course, this happened with every party, with Congress, with other parties, BJP, post-retirement, parking of justices happened across political lines, cutting across political lines. Everybody did that. Probably that's an area that needs to be seriously looked at. So let us give it to this particular movement on that point. Now let's look at the second point. It says, if any legitimate vote is deleted, please remember this. If any legitimate, who decides who's a legitimate, who's not a legitimate vote? Suppose he is deleted, the Chief Election Commissioner, none other than just the Chief Election Commissioner of the country, shall be arrested under UAPA Act. Taking away voting rights is no less than terrorism. This is their second point. So this is the democratic credentials of this particular so-called party. Again, I'm repeatedly telling you, it is not a registered party; it's just a social media outlet. But still, look at their manifesto. What does it say? So, deletion. See, if even courts are unable to decide if somebody is eligible voter or not an eligible voter. Especially, we see this problem with large influx that has come from Bangladesh and Myanmar, the Rohingya influx. So these people, we do not know what kinds of documents they hold, whether they're genuinely citizens of this country or they're illegal immigrants. It's very difficult to. Aadhaar card, courts have ruled that Aadhaar card is not proof of citizenship. Even a non-citizen can hold an Aadhaar card. So if that be the case, then what do you call as a entitlement to vote? Voter ID? Voter ID is probably the closest. But again, voter ID, so many fake voter IDs have been dumped. So who decides whether this is a fake or not a fake? Out of 140 crore population of almost we are talking about close to 1 crore electorate, people who vote, one vote, if somebody is genuinely a voter, but by mistake, for some reason, he does not get the voter ID, he is unable to vote, Chief Justice of India should be arrested under UAP, nothing less. He is a terrorist. So look what they are targeting. They are targeting institutions. So look at their ideology. It looks so attractive to youth that eligible voters should not be disenfranchised. But then look at the target what they are hitting at. So because you would have seen that in Bengal Assembly elections, the whole target was on election commission. SIR, special intensive revision, was something which was significantly targeted. And even Mamata Banerjee herself went to Supreme Court and then started pleading her case. And today, the Supreme Court very clearly supported the CEC, and it said SIR is part of the duty of the Election Commission to revise it so that our democracy is healthy. So, but then look how they're targeting. They're simply targeting the Chief Election Commissioner himself, nothing less. So you can understand they expect illegal immigrants to be part of the voting system of this country. Arvind Kejriwal himself used to get these votes in Delhi. By the way, I think I forgot in the initial stage itself. Abhijit Dipke, when I spoke that he was part of Aam Aadmi Party and Manish Sisodia, he was very close to Arvind Kejriwal. And Arvind Kejriwal gave a call to the youth just 2 days before this entire thing exploded. I think on 13th May or something like that, he gave an interview, public press interview, or sorry, press statement, where he asked the youth of this country to wake up, pick up, take to streets and arrest those people responsible for the NEET paper leak and change the governments. So he's instigating the so-called Gen Z to take over the streets and change the government, like what happened in Nepal, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka. So you can understand how those forces are all riling up. So this is the second point of their manifesto. Now the third point is women shall have 50% reservations without increasing the strength of the parliament. And 50% of the cabinet positions are reserved for women. Look, the Aam Aadmi Party and the Congress Party, who are all now supporting, I'll come to the supporters, the parties which are all, including Trinamool Congress, who are all supporting this so-called Cockroach Janata Party, were all guilty of defeating the 33% reservation for women in parliament. Now they're talking about 50% reservation for women in the parliament. So you can understand how serious they are with regard to these reservations, right? So it is just a political scoring point, not a real what do you say a point which came out of the conviction. So this is how they're projecting it. That's the third part of it, and we have seen how Swati was beaten up in Arvind Kejriwal's own house, and she had to go file an FIR. Finally, she is now moved to BJP. We have seen how Shazia Ilmi was treated there and how she had to leave. How women are treated in the Aam Aadmi Party, we are well aware of it. So, except the former chief minister, there are hardly any female faces that you can show off in the entire Aam Aadmi Party. But yet they give a lecture that 50% seat should be reserved for women. whereas the support base is completely different. Now, the fourth point, they said all media houses owned by Adani and Ambani license have to be cancelled. And this should lead to independent media being established. Now, who decides what is an independent media? Then they say bank accounts of Godi media anchors shall be investigated. So you can understand that target is not a movement, target is not something against paid media or motivated media. What about the media which keeps on attacking the government, like the Wire, the Hindu, so many other outlets are there. Why they don't have anything to talk about it? What about the media which was funded by China, by George Soros, by the deep state? What about them? What about the big business industrial houses? For instance, CNN, which is exclusively funded from the church. It's very strange. Actually, CNN is funded by the church in USA. So what about those media? What about the media in, for instance, in Kerala, which is heavily motivated by Chinese influence? They toe the line of Communist Party and very disruptive way of approaching it. No, they only target Ambani and Adani and Godi media. So you can understand whoever talks in their favor is an independent media. Whoever speaks in favor of the government or who highlights the development in this country, they become Godi media. So you can understand their agenda. You can understand how the entire narrative is all about. So we could have understood if they said that any media which is funded by big industrial houses we should remove, then probably India Today also should be out. The Hindu should be out. There are so many other media outlets also should be out. So that's not the case. Only Ambani and Adani. Only both of them needs to be targeted. So you can understand what their motivations. Then the fifth point is any MLA or MP who defects from one party to another shall be barred from contesting and holding public office for 20 years. So you can understand where this comes from. Because just recently, the whole bunch of Aam Aadmi Party MPs in Rajya Sabha kind of defected and went into BJP. So obviously the frustration shows. They don't want to claim that they are from Aam Aadmi Party, but the frustration shows. Now let's put it this way. Once an election is over, what happens to those people is completely their choice. Let us say after 2029 election, somebody who lost on a particular political party, he wants to shift to the another party. He is free to do that. But just by defection, an MP, an MLA who defects at the time of election or just before the election, he should be barred for 20 years. I mean, that's a kind of a punishment you give to even a serious murderer. A life imprisonment is that kind of a stuff. But for just defecting from one party to another party, you want to punish them for 20 years. So you can understand what kind of a disruptive agenda these people want to bring about. Now, look at the supporter base. Now, when we go to supporter base, we can understand their hypocrisy. Each of these points, look at the people who are supporting them and where do they stack up to each of these manifesto points. Let's look at it. Now, additionally, they have added 2 more points after these 5 points were accepted. The 6th point was the party shall be answerable under RTI Act. Right to information is only for government or government funded bodies, not for private bodies. Why should the RTI commissioner get involved in a private body? But they said we shall be covered by RTI. The last point, the 7th point that was added, these 2 points were added much later. The last point was it shall establish, quote unquote, secret cockroach cares fund. So this is kind of mocking PM cares fund. So they said secret. Why secret? If you are going to be covered under RTI, then why secret? You might as well put it. So if you recall how Aam Aadmi Party, when it started, they said transparency and so many things they said. And when they started disclosing their funders, who all gave their funds, they started putting in their website. Suddenly one fine day they took it off. Now you don't find any of their funders. These are all Ajnat donors. We don't know who the donors are. So they're getting huge amount of money from the deep state. So you understand how this entire movement is being run. Right now, initially, it is like a opium. Once people start getting used to it, great, we're going to start a cockroach care fund which will take care of people who are disenfranchised, unemployed, blah, blah, whatever. It's a great thing. But then under RTI, now what are you going to disclose? Look at somebody who spoke about RTI and ombudsman and so many things were spoken about the Aam Aadmi Party. Today, nobody knows who their funders are, what their accounts are. Completely mysterious, including Khalistani funds they have taken. So you can understand how this movement is also going. Now let's come to the crucial part of it. The moment this so-called party or so-called movement was announced, a lot of supporters in this country started propping them up. Now, if you understand each of the supporters, you can understand the ideology or can understand the disruptive plan each one of these people are capable of and what they are targeting at. The first supporter was Mahua Moitra. It is the same lady who gave away password of her Lok Sabha membership ID, so that all the Lok Sabha questions that are asked, that can be asked, or any other information that can be taken only by members, all that was accessible to an industrialist sitting in UK. For what? In return, at least we know that she got some perfumes and some cosmetics and things like that. Just for that, she has sold her soul. So this is the kind of a person, Mahua Moitra, who is talking about moral scruples and all. And she is the one who has, on live television, she has used her fingers to obnoxiously kind of demean the anchors and the panelists. It was the same woman, same lady who has the choicest abuses for Hindus. She was the same lady who spoke so horribly about Mahadev when Gyanvapi issue came up. And this is a lady who is now supporting this particular party. The second person who stood up to support this is Kirti Azad. Now, Kirti Azad's father was a former chief minister of Bihar. His name is Bhagwat Jha Azad. Between 1988 and 89, he was chief minister in Bihar. So he is already an entitled kid. He already had a privileged lifestyle before he entered cricket and politics. And he says that I'm also a winning World Cup captain. Yes, he was part of the team which won the 1983 World Cup. But what was his contribution? In the entire World Cup, he scored 15 runs. And he scored he took 1 wicket. That's his contribution. Okay. But then he says, I'm a World Cup winning team member. And then he's supporting this. So look at his bag. He was in INC for 2 years in 2019 to 2021 in Indian National Congress. Then he shifted to Bharatiya Janata Party, and he was with Bharatiya Janata Party for good 29 years. Then in the last 5 years, he shifted to Trinamool Congress. That means he is the one who jumped so many parties, and he is endorsing the manifesto which says if an MP jumps the ship, then you have to bar him for 20 years. So that is the background of this gentleman. Then comes Akhilesh Yadav. Akhilesh Yadav tweets BJP banam CJP, which reads as BJP versus CJP, which is Cockroach Janata Party. Now, has he given up that, in the coming elections in 2027 in UP elections, he is not the factor at all, that he cannot fight the BJP and it's for CJP to come and fight the BJP? Is he accepting his defeat before the elections are even announced? Or he wants the CJP to kind of push him, front end him, and then handhold him in this election because he is unable to fight. So you can understand what he's talking about. Then Shashi Tharoor picks up and he says it's a revelation of youth frustration on unemployment and NEET paper leak. Of course, he's in Congress, so he has to say something. He said that. But what about the credentials of the people who are talking and the whole manifesto they spoke about? Shashi Tharoor is silent. Is he endorsing that a chief election commissioner of this country has to be arrested under UAPA because one voter somewhere in this big country has been disenfranchised? Does he accept it? Now we have Prashant Bhushan. He is an Andolan Jeevi. He's been a traditional Andolan Jeevi. He's been funded heavily by deep state. And so he is one of the persons who is endorsing it. And then comes the great Dhruv Rathi. Dhruv Rathi sits in Germany and he keeps on ranting big time every single day. And all his tweets are targeted only at Modi ji BJP, RSS, and Hindus. So when Sandesh Kali happened, when women were being raped in front of their husbands and sons, every single day they were coming and raping. And when they filed the FIR, he was trying to shield Shah Jahan Sheikh and Mamata Banerjee and TMC goons in his tweets. Under pressure from a women chief minister, Mamata Banerjee, these women victims were forced to withdraw their FIRs. When they withdrew their complaints, Rurati says, look how fake BJP is running the narrative. He's that sensitive to women's issues and he's endorsing 50% reservation for women. You can understand where he comes from. When this lady, Hallie Link, in Netherlands, she shouts on Prime Minister Modi to answer questions in the freest press. And later on, when she was interviewed by BBC and 3-4 of our own channels, she turned out she knew nothing about our country, but she was just trying to get a few seconds of hype in the media. She knew nothing about political system here, the judiciary system here, the way democracy runs here. And she claimed that she represents the freest press, whereas we have press here who have the breakfast, lunch, dinner abusing the government and the prime minister. So we have one of the freest press, and the number of deaths per 10,000 journalists in our country is 0.1. Whereas in Europe, it averages around 1 to 1.2. Yet she claims that they are freer than us and then gives a moral lecture to us. And Dhruv Rathi says, we need more of these people. Every time Modi ji visits Europe or any of the Western countries, they should name and shame him. Keep on questioning him so that he will do a press conference, which he has not done for 12 years. So Modi ji did many, press conferences before he became the PM. So what is the first question they will ask? What about justice to the Muslims who are killed in the Gujarat riots? Supreme Court already gave the verdict, and so many SITs gave verdicts. It's all gone, done and dusted. But still, people like Rajdeep Sardesai, this entire ecosystem, want to keep on harping on things which are dead and buried. So he is understood, come to a point that it's not worth talking to these guys who are only disruptionists. In genuine sense, they are cockroaches. They're doing nothing. They're the lazy disruptionists. So he has not done any press conference. He is doing a press statements where the president of the prime minister of Netherlands and Modi ji gave a press statement. It was very clearly told to all the journalists that this is not a press conference. In the BBC interview, this lady was asked this question. Are you aware that this is only a press statement and not a press conference? She agreed. She said, yes, we were told this is not a press conference. But what do? I shouted. So you can understand what kind of a journalism she has done. She's just a young girl. She wanted her fame. She hardly had 2,000 or 3,000 followers. Thanks to this, she has the entire anti-BJP, anti-Bharat ecosystem who is supporting her now, and jumps in this guy called Dhruv Rathi. So this is what Dhruv Rathi is all about. Now, if this is the case, then we have this Bollywood or Karachiwood or Urduwood, whatever you want to call it. They are not far behind. So they have jumped into this fray. Now, suddenly, all these people were quiet when Sandesh Kali rapes were happening. They were quiet when more than 700 BJP workers were slaughtered in Bengal after the violence. They never opened their mouth. When scores of RSS workers and BJP workers were killed in the battlefields of Kerala, they never opened their mouth. But now suddenly they have the voice. They suddenly wake up. Now comes Anurag Kashyap. Anurag Kashyap endorses this particular party. Now, what is the background of Anurag Kashyap? I don't want to go into the entire history. One statement is sufficient. He openly said in a particular statement which is recorded, which is available on the internet, where he said he loves to urinate on Brahmins. Anurag Kashyap himself is a Brahmin, but he says, I love to urinate on Brahmins. So this is the kind of a person who is endorsing this party. Second comes Kunal Kamra. Kunal Kamra is unadulterated hate for Hindus. And he targeted Arunab Goswami, when he was flying a flight, he stood by him and kept on harassing him and took a video of it and sent it viral. Now, with the same Kunal Kamra, completely his mouth is sealed. When Mahua Moitra, when she was flying from Kolkata to Delhi, the passengers started calling her chore. They started calling her, criticizing her for supporting Mamata Banerjee and their entire ecosystem. So this guy completely keeps quiet and says it is infringement upon the rights of women. So you can understand what kind of a person Kunal Kamra is. Comes Konkana Sen Sharma. She is an absolute woke entitlist because she's a third generation Bollywood actress. And she had a history of picking up all these wrong causes before also. I don't want to go deeper into it because she's. Then comes Fatima Sana Sheikh, absolute Islamist. She had success in Bollywood, but then after that, we have seen her behavior, absolute Islamist agenda she goes with, and so she's endorsing it. Then comes Dia Mirza. It is the same lady who says when crackers are being burst in the streets in Diwali, her dog shakes with fear, and it is such so cruel against animals, and she sheds tears in her videos of animal activism. And the next day she goes for how beautiful kebabs are, how beautiful chicken is, how beautiful beef is. She keeps eating non-veg food like there's no tomorrow. So such a hypocrite, Dia Mirza, she endorses it. And then Isha Gupta, she's a small-time actress, so I don't think I need to go much beyond that. Then other celebrities who endorsed this party are Sonam Wangchuk. Sonam Wangchuk is another Andolan Jeevi. He says, he claims himself, he calls himself an honorary cockroach. So this is the kind of a person that he is. Then Anna Hazare, he said government should encourage youth to give their voice. Then comes Mamata Banerjee, Abhishek Banerjee, and Derek O'Brien of TMC. They support this party. So you can understand how this entire ecosystem is working to support something which is absolutely fake. Now let me come to this 20 million followers this particular so-called Cockroach Janata Party has. Out of that, more than 30% comes from Pakistan. Pakistani handles follow this particular thing. And Pakistan has lakhs and lakhs of bots created everywhere. Be it bots which are supporting Imran Khan, or be it the bots which are aimed at targeting countries which are opposed to Pakistan, be it Bharat or be it Afghanistan. They have this entire ecosystem built there. So they are the ones, more than 30% come from Pakistan. 15% come from Bangladesh. So that reaches roughly around 50% of the entire follower base is outside this country. From Bharat, they are only 9%. And yet they project as if they are the ones who are talking about Gen Z. Now, the founder himself, Abhijit Dipke, himself is 30-year-old. Nowhere is he eligible to be a Gen Z, right? Now, let's talk about Gen Z. Who is a Gen Z? Gen Z is somebody, let me quote a particular company called Arctus. You can go and check this company, Arctus. This is Bangalore-based company. This is a young kid by name Sri Purna S. Rao. He is the founder of this particular organization, company. He is just 23 years old. He has the record of creating aerodynamically stable aircraft which can fly 24 hours at 45,000 feet to give perfect imagery for our armed forces. 23-year-old kid. This is the Gen Z this country is producing. Yet look at somebody who is 30-year-old claims he is Gen Z. Now let's look at Gen Z of Nepal, Gen Z of Bangladesh, and Gen Z of Sri Lanka. This is a term being used by the deep state to do regime changes everywhere. Let's look at Nepal. What was the concern of the kids, young kids in Nepal? The Nepalese government, rightly, I actually support the government's decision. They said every social media platform has to register in Nepal. If we have a problem, we need to know to whom we should send a notice. So they asked Facebook, WhatsApp, and all these guys to register. Chinese handles like your TikTok and others, they register. Because KP Sharma Oli was a prime minister then. He was anyway an agent of China. So they registered. But the American handles never bothered to register. So the government blocked all those handles, and the children went on the streets. They agitated. Once this agitation took a violent turn for 2 days, the government withdrew this notification and released all the handles. So all social media was open in Nepal. So the grievances of that so-called Gen Z was addressed and assuaged. Over. The next day, after this was done, then the attacks happened on the parliament, on the courts, on the houses of prime ministers, ministers. So this was not done by Gen Z. They're kids, young kids, 20-year-olds. They want to play their TikToks. They want to play their Instagram, memes in Instagram. They're so concerned about who is following, who is like, who's not liking. They're in a different world. They are not here to go and disrupt it. The disruption was done in the name of Gen Z by professional Andolankaris, funded, aided, and directed by the deep state. Now let's look at Bangladesh. Same story in Bangladesh. Bangladesh, what was the issue? There were excessive reservations. Almost 70% of the government jobs were reserved for various categories in the society, including a significant amount for children of people who died or who fought in the Mukti Bahini and in the liberation movement of Bangladesh. So fine, I mean, you gave reservations to first, second generation. Now third, fourth generation, who are great grandchildren, grandchildren of the original fighters are also getting the benefits. So the youth said, at least you reduce that. We are not getting jobs. So kindly do something. Give us jobs. So the agitation was for reservation. So once the reservation movement took a certain line, immediately the deep state from US wanted to do a regime change because Sheikh Hasina was going closer to Xi Jinping, China. So they wanted to have a regime which benefits them. That's when they brought in Muhammad Yunus, removed this regime, brought in Muhammad Yunus illegally. Because in Bangladesh constitution, there is nothing called chief advisor. The prime minister is there, interim prime minister is there, or president would take over should something happen to the prime minister. So elections had to be held. But he ran the country for such a long time under the directions and instructions from the Bill Clinton Foundation and George Soros and the Democrats of the US. It had nothing to do with Gen Z. Gen Z had different demands, but the people who took over this country, who ran this entire regime change, were different people. Now let's look at Sri Lanka. They're also same story. The so-called Gen Z, the moment petrol, diesel were cut, they didn't have anything, and food rations went down. They immediately started agitating, and the agitation was hijacked, taken over by forces which are unleashed so that Sri Lanka stays away from China. So this is a tough war between USA and China. We got caught. Bharat got caught in between them. None of the three agitations were Gen Z agitations. It's a movement they gave in the name of Gen Z. They ran the show. Today in Bharat, we have more than 2 lakh startup companies which have started. And we are the world's third largest, unicorns in the world are in Bharat. More than 120, 130 unicorns are in our country. So our youth are now focusing on taking up, entrepreneurship, starting new companies, especially when defense and when space has opened up. I don't know how many of you have followed my defense roundup on Chatram in National Stuff channel. I've covered extensively about all these startup companies which produce fantastic technology and solutions which were used by our Indian forces during Operation Sindhu. If we did not have those technologies, we wouldn't have really been so successful. The swarm drones which were taken down, the electronic warfare that we faced, the FPV drones that we had, the targeted munitions that we have used, the situational awareness that we had, amazing kind of a technology was provided by our startups, young entrepreneurs provided to startups. Majority of them are in Hyderabad and in Bangalore. Of course, in Chennai, Pune, everywhere. But largely these two sectors, you'd see a lot of these people. That is how the Gen Z in this country is going. And in the last 4 generations, at least from 1947 till now, if you look at each generation of 10 to 14 years, if you look at it, the current, who you are calling as Gen Z, they consume the lowest quantum of liquor. All the previous generations on an average used to drink more liquor and used to smoke more cigarettes. But the current Gen Z, they are not consuming so much liquor. They are health conscious. They are not smoking so many cigarettes. The Gen Z of our country is completely different. They have created new concepts like bhajan clubs, right? So you understand what they are doing. They're cleaning up old temple tanks, rivers, they're cleaning up the beaches. The kinds of movement that are happening among so-called Gen Z is different. Whereas these Andolan Chiris, they want lazy, unemployed people to join their movement so that they can create disruption here. And on the disruption, on the debris of disruption, they can plant their leadership in the country to control this country and make it permanently enslaved to their masters outside. We all know Congress has an MOU with the Communist Party of China, and we know why Rahul Gandhi visited Nicobar Islands, Great Nicobar Island, to oppose a project which is so crucial for us. It is the Hormuz Strait of Bharat. Tomorrow, if China does something to us in Himalayas, if it does some major incursion, we can cut them off. More than 70% of their business which passes through the Nicobar Islands, Indira Point, we have the capability to stop them. Be it their energy security, be it their minerals which are picking up from Africa, or their exports to Africa, West Asia, and Europe, we can cut them off. So that project is extremely crucial for us. And so, lo and behold, Rahul Gandhi goes and opposes it. So you can understand how this ecosystem works. Now, last point I would make is this so-called ecosystem of the deep state has invested in multiple layers in our country. The first layer is, if I may say so openly, it is Rahul Gandhi. Even within Congress, people like Salman Khurshid or A.K. Antony or the old guard, P. Chidambaram, they have never endorsed what all Rahul Gandhi has done. Rahul Gandhi has gone after several issues which are hurting us. Even Abhishek Manu Singhvi, we know what his background is and we know how entitled he is and how arrogant he is and what all he has done. Yet he gave a statement yesterday that America cannot bully us and expect us to cooperate with them and be a partner. We want to deal with you as a partner, but not as a subordinate, a pliable ally. This is the words used by Abhishek Manu Singhvi. So, old guard in Congress, though they have their own politics, they're disruptive, but the current crop under Rahul Gandhi are completely, they're doing things which are completely anti-national. So, he's the first plan A. Then comes the plan B, which is Aam Aadmi Party and Arvind Kejriwal. Unfortunately, Arvind Kejriwal has become unpopular. He's been arrested. And you can understand what's the kind of reach they had. They could even pull him out by getting him a quote-unquote interim bail, which doesn't exist in the act on which he was arrested. That act does not have this provision of interim bail at all, but he was given interim bail. God save the justice in this country. So he is the plan B. Suddenly they realize that he is unable to replace Rahul Gandhi across the country. So that is the second plan B. Then they unleashed plan C, which was your Sonam Wangchuks and many other smaller movements across the country. So this Cockroach Janata Party is one such thing. So where do you think they got the funds for so many pots? 20 million subscribers. Where are they from? How did they get these pots? How did they manage all these things? So you can understand these are all internet bubble. They're trying to create a narrative which doesn't exist on the ground. The so-called Gen Z doesn't care for this. They are busy into so many things. And most important, the Gen Z is still rooted in family value systems. They don't want to go and disrupt. The parents expect. I spoke about Sri Purna. His parents wanted him to take up a campus placement job, but he went ahead and became an entrepreneur himself, first-time entrepreneur. So you can understand the Gen Z in our country is so different. Yes, there will be a minority, 5%, 4% will be there who are, lazy, who don't want to do anything. But the large section of this country is moving forward and we are in a different world altogether. So this, friends, is probably I think I gave a brief overview of all these things. The last developments which happened is in Haryana, a lawyer by name Sudhir Chakar from Panipat, he filed a petition in Election Commission wanting to register a party in the name of Cockroach Janata Party. So you can understand some people want to encash the popularity that has picked up. And Indian Youth Congress, now they are using this cockroach for their own stuff. Indian Youth Cockroaches. So they started sending out memes, they started doing everything. The entire concept of cockroach, they are taking over. So look at the irony. It is the Chief Justice who said something, but the target is the government and only BJP and only single political party. It is not about the political parties or other political parties which are responsible for so many atrocities in this country. So this is the whole narrative. So this is another attempt, Plan C attempt of the deep state. Plan A, Rahul Gandhi. Plan B, Arvind Kejriwal. Plan C, create these movements. Sonam Wangchuk, Cockroach Janata Party. More 3 or 4 of them will come up. Probably we do not know if the church has done something as far as Tamil Nadu is concerned. So many things are going to happen. So they have multiple plans to disrupt this country. So as we try to go forward, as we try to progress, they will play their dirty games and try and take us into their control. They are unable to digest that this country has survived. It's a civilization which has survived so many years of occupation and yet is now raising up and is able to awaken to its greatness. So that is something which they are unable to accept. Second, when we were 10th largest economy, nobody bothered. Suddenly, we are now 4th or 5th largest economy. We are threatening to be second or third. They already lost control of the second largest economy. They dare not, they better not leave control of the third and fourth largest countries. The rest of the countries, be it Germany, Japan, are complete blind allies to the USA. So they cannot afford another China in Bharat. They cannot have Bharat, which is not under their control. They will do anything and everything under their command to see that we are disrupted, we are bogged down, we are troubled, and our growth story is curtailed. So you can understand how this entire movement has been planned and being unleashed. Thankfully, now the handle is being withheld. They come up with a new handle, but then a lot of cases are going to come up. They'll get exposed for what they are, and people understand the real people, real voters don't care for these people. So, but then as intellectuals, as citizens, we should be aware of what is happening, why is it happening, how should we counter it. Tomorrow, when you face anybody in the society who is talking great about this youth movement, I'm sure you have enough information data for you to fight that across.